In order to do any kind of perspective, you're going to need a couple of things: your sketchbook, an eraser, a pencil, and a ruler. For 1-point perspective, basically you're going to take the ruler, make a line across the middle of your sketchbook, and then you're going to put a vanishing point in the middle. Technically, this line that you've created is the horizon line where the earth meets the sky. The dot is technically the vanishing point. Once you've established your horizon line and vanishing point, you can start by making a box below the horizon line. And I'm going to just take my ruler because technically I can get two sides that are already square if I do that. And square, I mean 90 degrees. So here's what I mean. This is a 90-degree angle. Oops, angle is that marking. And then what I'm going to do is take my ruler and I'm going to just use the straight edge portion of it, and I'm going to very, very lightly make my lines go back to the vanishing point. And I can see already that I have to fix my box a little bit because I've actually made that line not quite on the corner, which is going to mean that my box is a little bit off. So the next thing that you're going to do is you actually have to determine where the back side of the box is. So what I always suggest doing is lining up the ruler with the whole numbers, because if you notice the whole number 10 and the whole number 2, when they're lined up and on the horizon line, technically I'm going to make a perpendicular line. Then once I've done that, I'm actually going to move the ruler and I'm going to go from that corner across to the other edge of my box. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase my helper line so that I can actually show where that box is in space. So here I have just a cube, and I'm actually going to, because I made a little mistake here, I'm going to fix it by making sure that that edge is where I want it to be. I'm also going to fill in this side. That way I don't have to erase that little mistake that I made. And I'm going to make sure I've got my little corner. And there I have my first box in perspective. It's also suggested that you make an additional box above the horizon line so that you can tell where or what's going to happen to that box when you have the box above the horizon line. I made my box a little bit too big, and my pencil eraser is not quite so nice, so I'm going to take my larger eraser to erase that mark that I made. And then I'm going to again go from the 3 corners of this box, and I'm going to show where that box is in perspective. Once I start getting really good at perspective, I don't actually have to draw my helper lines, is what I call them. We are determining how big the box is, but I don't draw them all the way there, because once I've actually figured out what the perspective is like, then what I can do is I can actually anticipate where things are going, and I don't have to erase quite as much once I've learned how to do it. So there I have my first and second box, and we are going to actually make 20 boxes in 1-point perspective. Additionally, you should really try to make a box on the horizon line, because when the box is on the horizon line, it looks a little bit different than the first 2 that we made. And the reason is because the box crosses the horizon line, so you're going to have some lines going to the horizon line that are from below, and other lines that are going from the horizon line above the box. And then again, I'm going to end my box. I'm going to suggest how thick that box is, and then I'm going to erase my helper lines. And I'm going to shade this in because that way I don't have to erase quite as much. I'm going to go this direction on this side of the box, and then I'm going to go this direction on the other side of the box because then I can actually see I've got my box in perspective. Another thing that you should be able to tell is if you actually make shaded lines one direction and then another direction, it shows the plane shift, and then you'll actually be able to see the different things that you're drawing. I'm also going to draw a box that is with the y-axis of this. If we imagine this like a math graph, technically, if I put my box over the horizon line on the y-axis, that same thing happens, but the box is only going to have its two sides showing. If I'm making a solid box, and then there I have my fourth box, technically, and I'm going to make this one have a number 3 real nice and dark. The next box that I draw, I'm going to try to make a glass box for you. So I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger so that you guys see what happens. And I actually used my ruler to do, I'm going to line myself up again on those whole numbers so that I get my perpendicular line. And I'm going to erase the overage. Then I'm going to take, excuse me, I bumped that a little bit. But I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw the lines on the corners. But this time, because I said I'm going to make a glass box, I'm also going to take a line from the fourth corner and I'm going to go to, well, I'm going to go back kind of, well, I could go back a little bit farther yet. But what I'm going to do is, another thing that I wanted to mention too, is that technically when you're drawing the top and the bottom of your boxes, they should be parallel, and they're actually parallel with that horizon line as well. Then I'm going to take my ruler, make sure that I have my parallel lines here, because I'm actually creating the back of this box and it's creating a parallel. And then I have to go from this corner, and I'm going to line up my whole numbers again and make sure that it's right on that corner. And voila, there is the back of my box. But this time I'm going to go from this corner over here and I'm going to make another vertical line. Then what I'm going to do is I actually have to extend this. So I'm going to put my ruler back over here and make sure that I go all the way to the end of that. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is connect these two back corners, and technically now I have a glass box. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to erase my overages and then I'll let you see that glass box. So technically this is my box number 5. And the one last thing that I want to show you is you can also make boxes have the inside view. And I'm going to make this box a little bit smaller. I'm going to go half the way, and then I'm going to take my rule over here and I'm going to make this box again over like this. I'm going to make this one smaller. Mostly just because I want to. Because right now this is all pretend. We're just practicing. And I'm going to take my pencil, and again I'm going to go from all 4 corners, but this time I'm not going to draw all of that inside part that I did last time. So technically I'm going to again line my whole numbers up and make my back side, and then I'm going to go parallel to that horizon line from the corner, and I'm going to go from this corner to the other side of that line that I made. Then I'm going to erase because I have my box all done. But I promised you I would go from this corner to the back side of this box, so I'm going to go like this. Now technically, because I've got the edge of the box here, this box is going to come down like this, and it's going to come across like this. And now I should have used my ruler, but if I actually go inside here and I make this part super, super dark, and then I go one direction. I'm going to go vertically with this side, and I'm going to go horizontally with this side so that you can see the planes that are inside that last box. So there I've got at least 6 of my boxes done, and hopefully you do too.